Deep Dive Film School makes no claim of ownership of the film footage used in this episode. The film footage is owned entirely by the copyright holders. Also, we're going to spoil the hell out of this movie, so this is your warning. Welcome to Deep Dive Film School!
Oh, this week we're going to get into our new festival, our food festival, with 2014 Jon Favreau movie, Chef.
Yes, Chef, let's dive in! All right, everybody, I am Adam Sherlock.
And I'm Adam Palcher.
And if you like what you see/hear, please like and subscribe. You can find us in all the spaces and places that people what?
Find good media.
That is right. We do festivals, we do 101s, we do that one scene. We just started a new festival.
Yeah, food festival. We got hundreds of episodes, so feel free, come enjoy film history with us, watch along with us.
Yes.
Just like and subscribe. We appreciate it.
So this festival was your idea.
Yes.
What was the inception? What made you think of this?
I just love food, I think.
I mean, yeah.
No, and honestly, there's not a ton of great food movies. Like, there's a handful that try to be good, and I know specifically with Jon Favreau here in this movie, Chef, he really looked at all of the good movies, and I think we're probably doing a couple of them in the fest here. We're doing Ratatouille, we're doing Jiro Dreams of Sushi. Big Night is going to be our forgotten gem.
That's right.
As well. So, I'm someone, I think we'll talk about this, and I think he talks about this as the main character here as Carl is, there's two types of people in the world, right? Eaters in the world. People who do it for purely fuel. That's all they care about. Just give it to me because I know my body needs it and I won't survive. And then there's people that enjoy food, and it's an experience, and it's multiple experiences, not only with your taste buds, but with the company you're in and the culture you're in and the art behind what was made in front of you and all of this kind of stuff, and I'm a guy who, like, during college would eat Taco Bell like twice a day.
You and I used to walk through the Alberto's, which is like a Mexican chain here in Salt Lake. We'd walk through the Alberto's drive-through at 3:00 in the morning after getting off work at the bar and try and buy burritos. Most of the time they'd sell them to us. But yeah, I mean, we were pretty bottom of the barrel when it came to that.
I just didn't know what good food was. And at a certain point in my life, I think it became way more relevant. And, it's something that I looked forward to and started enjoying. So I started looking at these movies, and this one in particular was one that really stood out. But, there's a lot of things in other food movies that maybe are a little cliche, like the kitchen, the chef always yelling, like that kind of stuff. Like, not everyone is Gordon Ramsay, right?
No, it's not always
so,
that.
I think there's been a lot of iterations since 2014 this movie came out where things have evolved to be a little bit better. But, there's a lot of, like, no reservations, and it's like Catherine Zeta-Jones. And, so, there's, like, stuff like that where it's not really about the food. And I really hope that we chose movies that are truly about the artistry of food in this festival. And I think this one absolutely does it. I mean, have you ever seen a grilled cheese that fucking delicious?
I mean, my God, that little boy has no idea how lucky he is.
Yeah, right.
But and I think that this movie and talking about this festival and everything that you just said about, again, being able to use food as this sort of like linchpin for these larger issues to talk about of life's experiences, you can't help but think about Anthony Bourdain, right? You can't help but think about the way in which he always framed what food is, and that it's this great equalizer, and that it is something that allows people to, like, step outside of their own experience. And I think Favreau's character here definitely embodies those pieces of it. And then along with it is this idea of just, like, it's something you always say, which is, like, it's always great in a movie to watch somebody who's good at something, right? And, like, experience that with them. And that this guy's good at this thing, and he's really, for the first half of the movie, surrounded by these situations where he's having to kind of, like, swallow his pride and do shit that he doesn't want to because, and you get it. You look at this guy and you go, yeah, he's about a decade over being, like, the cool young punk rock brash, like, new kid in town who's making the big splash. And it's like, now he's got gray in his beard, and now he's got a kid, and he's got a failed relationship and all these different things where you go, yeah, he can't afford to tell everybody to go fuck themselves anymore. And that's how he's got himself into this position at the beginning of this movie when we meet him, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah, there's like, the rise has passed already, right?
Yeah.
He's still, doing well, I guess, to some degree, but then we see the fall and then the rise again. And that's what this movie is. And, honestly, none of these movies, and this is another reason I wanted to do this movie, because there's so many movies, especially if you get into, I think soon we're going to be doing a multiverse festival. And so that shit gets complicated. It's all these big, massive questions of what you could do and what reality is and all this stuff. These movies are just delights.
Yeah.
Delight of movies. They're just fun to watch. The stakes are extremely low in all of these movies.
Yes.
Honestly, and I think we'll see this as a trend, that the worst villain we're going to see is some critic some faceless critic. It
is definitely a trend.
What's the worst to be? Someone gets a bad review.
Totally.
No one's dying.
No one's dying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we
didn't put the menu on our on our list,
yeah,
but we definitely could have, because I think I nixed the idea of putting the menu on this festival before I saw it. Now, having seen it, I mean, no spoilers here, but it's much more about food than you think it's going to be. When you just see the trailer, you're like, oh, they're going to eat
It's
people.
not just about food like these movies are.
Right, but there's a lot more of it that's about food than you would think. The other thing, when you said, speaking of trends, the other thing I love here is something we rarely see, which is this really, in the same way that I think in High Fidelity, when we meet John Cusack, you go, oh, this is the midlife crisis version of his character from Say Anything.
Totally. I mean, I was just about to say
this here,
Swingers,
Favreau's character, this is his midlife crisis. This is his Gen X as a guy hitting 50, right? Where he's like, oh man,
it's like
what
Bobby and Swingers,
totally is Bobby.
He grew up and became instead of an actor, he was a chef.
He was a chef, yeah. But it's doesn't really understand social media. I love seeing John Leguizamo and who's the other sous chef?
Oh, Bobby Cannavale.
Yeah, Bobby Cannavale trying to explain to him what social media is, and you're just like, oh, this
fuck
is
Twitter.
Yeah.
Huh? Why does everyone keep saying
fuck Twitter?
It's funny,
just like it's a saying.
And that may date this movie a little bit, because 2014 Twitter was very popular.
Oh yeah,
and it has different connotations a bit more now.
Yeah,
but it is kind of funny, and the discovery and his ignorance to it is really fun part of the movie. Not only just with the jokes. Not only just with the jokes of them talking around and him not understanding that he's not direct.
He's not direct messaging the critic.
No, and his son throughout actually ends up, showing him how to use it. And it's a way for them to bond, but it's also a way for him to get marketing and promotion that he had never had before. Yeah, right.
It's too
stuck in his ways.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was trying to pin down. He's like, well, I cook. Isn't that enough? And his son, who, bless his heart, is 10 or 11. And he's like, it's not enough. I know you think it's enough, but you need this other stuff. You need somebody to be pimping things out for you. And yes, maybe the idea of Twitter itself is a tiny bit dated. But that idea of being a content creator, my God, is that so relevant today, 100%, right?
100%.
Where it's you can't just be the person that makes the art. You also have to be the hustler that gets it out there. And one thing I think is funny, and let's take a huge step back here and say, when we meet Chef, he is, because I can't remember his name.
Carl Casper.
Casper, that was it. Chef Casper. When we meet Casper, he's working for Dustin Hoffman, who's fantastic here. Yeah. Anytime that Hoffman leans into the real
prick.
Yeah, I was going to say the C word, but I changed my mind at the very last second. But that really is he's very good at that. And when he leans into it, you're always like, oh, well, so perfect.
And when he knows he's got 2 scenes in the movie, he's going to give
he's going to chomp that scenery.
I mean, the casting and the cameos here are just
incredible,
phenomenal.
But so he works for this guy who understands that he has this artist that works for him, and he's bitter about it. He purposely messes with Casper on a regular basis, just as a way of sort of swinging his weight to be
it's my place.
It's my place, right?
Play the hits.
Yeah, play the hits. Always play the hits. You go
see the Stones and they don't play Satisfaction.
Yeah. Are you going to be mad?
So he's in he's this divorced single parent. He he is someone who just loves cooking. He's a mega nerd about it. Like he's had his rise. He's tired of what he's doing. He feels like he's in a rut, right? And he wants to change things up. He's coming, they're having this critic come. He wants to mix it up, not do the same old stuff. And obviously that backfires on him.
Well, and three or four times we see that excitement peeking out of him where he's like, we're going to get crazy. And he's buying like wild, like cuttlefish and like all this crazy stuff. And you're like,
you go shopping with him, which sounds like, that could be a boring movie, but it's not, because it's the experience of it. It's the experience of like, what am I going to make today?
Well, to your point, it's hanging out with a nerd, right? Like if somebody came over here and they were not into like punk and hardcore music, but they were into hanging out with a nerd, I could talk their ear off for 5 hours.
I know.
But you know what I mean? It's like there's something exciting about seeing someone where it's like, if you're going to be into something,
be so into it. I agree. And at our age too, there's no time to waste with shit that's like, it's cool, it's whatever. It's like I'm into this so hard.
I just listen to the radio.
But
Get out of here! Shut up.
I really appreciate Favreau as a director. He's such a good director, and his character here really goes through some wild stuff. I think one trope, I think that he kicks to the curb, and I'm so happy he does. And it's so overdone and overused. And the very first scene, the exposition kind of makes you think it's going the other way, because he picks up his kid. He's like, oh, you know what your mom wants me to do? She wants me to get a food truck. Well, like some stupid thing. He's like, all right, I'll drop you off. See ya. It was just kind of showing their relationship, how it's kind of like, no, I got to work. Sorry.
Yeah, totally. And the cat's in the cradle and the silver spoon.
Exactly.
Right?
But I love how they make Sofia Vergara a very lovely person, not some bitter ex-wife who hates him because he cheated on her or whatever. Nope. She's like supportive. First off, there's no way in hell he would ever be able to land her.
How did he possibly land that? There's no way.
I mean, if I was going to make my own movie, I guess why not?
Yeah, that's what you get it.
Regardless, the fact that her character isn't like every other female character
harpy,
we've seen. I don't know. I appreciated that.
And I totally agree with you. And another piece of that I noticed and wrote down, again, very much like the relationship in High Fidelity. It's funny, I didn't think about it until I mentioned it earlier, but I'm like, there's a lot of mirroring here. But the woman who's like done with the dude, like, you can see echoes of who their wild self used to be, but they are a professional now. They have their shit together. They are like...
Well, they also make fun of his weight through this movie. Like, he's obviously like gained some pounds. Is that where it's coming from? Is it the divorce?
Or is it because you're eating all of you're eating all your sadness away, as the critic says?
Yeah,
played wonderfully here. By Oliver
So
Platt. Again, talk about somebody else needing to be a real dickhead and leaning into it. Like yes, but this moment of where he quote unquote goes viral, or as he says to his son, I'm a meme, right? Which I love that. And his son's like, ugh,
you know what a meme is?
Don't use words you don't know, but when he goes out, and because he's basically, I mean, he hasn't gotten fired, but his hands are tied to the point where like he wants to convince this critic after getting this bad review that he can actually still cook. And Hoffman won't let him. And so he storms out. And when he comes back and he says all this stuff, right? And he's just like, how can you do this to people? And like, and he's screaming at him. And it's funny because technically that quote unquote ruins his career, right? He's trending in all these ways. He's like, I have to run away. Amy Sedaris, for the 2 seconds she's in the movie, is like, no, we got to get you on Nightmare on, what was it?
Hell's Kitchen.
Hell's Kitchen. Yeah. Like, it's so great. But
well, he has to hit rock bottom, right?
But here's the thing that's crazy to me. And I don't know your take on this. When I watched his meltdown at that critic, I was like, I don't know if 2014 was different than 2023 is, but if that exact same thing happened now and I saw it on Reddit, in no way would that dude's career be done. He would be skyrocketed. He'd get his own TV show by the end of that night, right? Like,
That's
because what he says is so resonating, where he's like, you sit on this, up in your castle, just talking shit. And he's like, I work hard. And he pointed to the kitchen. He's like, those guys work hard. And I thought, yeah, he's like speaking for the people. I don't know that it would have turned out that way now.
You know, it's a great scene, but what really puts it home for me is the buildup to his explosion, because he's not there. He has left the kitchen. He went back home to cook his own shit. So we're seeing,
like, cook through his feelings too. I love that. Like he brought it all and was like,
they make it part of
whole thing.
He's like relieving energy or something, and it looks delicious, of course. And he's at home, you know, and we're seeing Oliver Platt slowly get the same meal again.
So he's live tweeting it.
Just like, is this a joke? What's happening? Like they're having this battle on Twitter and everything, and it's I don't know. It was a unique story. I just really appreciate how far Favreau went to, you know, talk to real chefs and say, what is it really like? What are the battles you're going through? Not some movie Hollywood bullshit that some producer thinks is a kitchen.
Yeah.
What is a fucking kitchen like? And his chef through this whole thing, like kind of coach him through this, is Roy Choi, who they ended up making a show on Netflix. They have like 4 seasons of them. Actually, it's an actual cooking show.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And it's
awesome.
great. It's just like you're hanging out, but you know, they get celebrities coming in. They go to, you know, someone's house. They have celebrity. Anyways, it's a great show if you love the food shows, which there's plenty out there. But it's based off of, it's named chef. It's based off of the show.
Oh, that's so cool.
They even make the grilled cheese on the show on one episode. So if you're a nerd like that, but you know, these guys in, you know, it kind of depends on what you're into, right? Who's a rock star or not. But like chefs became rock stars, right?
Oh, completely.
Like
especially around this period of time.
Yeah,
like,
definitely around here.
Yeah. You had there's the salt guy,
the Salt Bay guy. Yeah,
there's the salt guy. There's the Emile, the Bam, that guy. Like there's a whole bunch of them.
I mean,
right?
I don't know how relevant he was in 2014,
but I'm just saying over the years, the celebrity
Julia Childs,
you know. Well, now you're really going back. I don't know if she was relevant when this movie came out, Paul. But you know, we see him grasping for greatness in these moments. And literally right before he walks out and then later has the meltdown, he says to Scarlett Johansson, I'm finally happy.
Yeah.
And then his world blows up, you know? And it is like, if you just said it out loud, like, oh, and then he goes down to Florida and he does get the food truck and then he, you know, rebuilds his relationship with his son, you're like, it sounds pretty cliche, but it's so much fun. And
it's just
this
delightful.
is never discussed enough. And I guess it's for a really good reason. When you're such a good director / producer that nobody ever talks about the fact that you're also a great actor.
That's true.
Right? Like, because as an actor, even though he does like the little bit parts in the Marvel movies or whatever.
He did, you know, he directed all the Iron Mans and Elf. Not all of them, but a couple, the first one.
And pulled the Star Wars franchise out of the melting pot that it was in. Yeah. And was like, you could do this and do a samurai Western show, you know, like
really turned into such an impressive person to have.
But then on top of all of that, he's just like, he is such a solid actor in this movie.
Oh, yeah,
like he's so great to watch. But nobody ever talks about that, I guess, because he's really good at
he's done his whole career since Swingers.
Yeah,
you know?
totally.
I mean, he's done it pretty much the whole time. So, it's such a, I don't know. I really love the family side of things here. You know, obviously this turns into a road trip movie, what you're talking about, and it's super fun. And really, after he gets a food truck, the stakes, they're already low. It's just like, you just want to see them succeed, have a good time. That's all. And it's food. People are going to come if you have food.
The biggest thing is, and you know, we both have a deep love for these kinds of characters. You want him to stay out of his own way.
Yeah.
Right? Like he does make poor decisions and we watch them in real time. Not comically bad decisions like some movies would choose to do, but definitely like there's stuff he doesn't understand. There's times where he kind of fakes it like he does know what's going on and he makes poor decisions.
Mostly with his son.
Yes, but we're just like, don't screw this up, you know?
And I love it, though. And I love how honest his son is with him, too. Like, you know, they hang out every other weekend and they're always doing things. And he's just like, I just want to, like, hang out with you and you could teach me to do stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
that's
the connection they're missing, right?
Yeah, we don't need to watch movies.
Over.
Like, we could just do this. Like, I could tell you about
He's
Twitter.
like, oh, I just thought we never hang out, so you want to do fun stuff all the time. He's like, no, this is fun.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's such an adult kid thing to say.
Yeah.
And it opens his eyes in a variety of ways, and he gets to, spend time with the boys putting cornstarch on his balls.
That whole sequence is so funny. It's so weird. Let's talk about a couple of these great moments. Let's talk about when Iron Man shows up in this movie.
Yeah.
It's a single scene. And
there's so much going on too.
I want a movie of just that room of the two of them. It's because it's like an inverted, insane My Dinner with Andre. It's just a conversation between two guys.
Marvin.
And it is the weirdest. Marvin is the weirdest. It's like his character from Wonder Boys. It's Crabtree.
You're not a turd that lost.
He's like, she just told me she's pregnant.
I guarantee that was not in the script.
No,
he just
be an
made
ad lib.
that shit up.
Yeah.
He's like, right before she came in here.
Yep.
He's like, and he plays up the whole vasectomy part.
I think that's all it is. It's like 5 minutes.
Oh yeah.
It's 5 minutes of Robert Downey Jr. trying to get Favreau to break. I think that's all it is.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
I completely
Where
think
he's just
you're
like, just say whatever you want. At the end of it, you have to sell me a food. You have to give me a food truck.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I wish John was here with us because
So-
I bet he would say that because it just seems like it.
Yeah, because they've been
if
friends
not-
forever.
Yeah,
Like,
and just like
yeah.
they've been doing it forever, and just I'm sure they have a rapport, and like how would it be to be that person in the seat of that trying to not be broken by Robert Downey Jr.
You're right. I don't think I feel like a piece of turd.
Yeah, he's like, come in and just do whatever you want, and by the end, just say let's go get
Just say, let's go
see your
get the truck.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's it. Never to see it again. And Scarlett Johansson here is also awesome as well. Like,
Oh man, that's another sequence that really bubbled to the surface in rethinking about this movie is the seduction through cooking scene. That's such a great where he's like, let me cook for you, because she's like, we said we weren't going to do this, and he's like, well, let me cook for you, and she goes, fuck, because you just go, well, yeah, now you're going to sleep with him because like he's going to cook like. And then she's just sitting and watching him while he's doing all this stuff while the specials play. Like that's the soundtrack to this movie is so good too.
Yeah,
like
it's interesting.
There's like Grandmaster Flash in here and the specials and like it's the direction when the cooking is happening is beautiful looking. It's so colorful and just rich.
Well, and you get the sound too of like bread crunching, and you see the it's
sizzling,
like a commercial.
yeah.
You see everything. I think probably my favorite character is got to be Leguizamo.
He's so good.
He's so natural. And he's not there. He's not a threat. He's nothing. Because a lot of times he's a threat, and he's a good threat.
Oh yeah.
But him just kind of being himself.
And he's not a punch-up guy either, because that's usually why people pull him in.
He's the character guy.
Is there like say a joke at the end of every scene here, and he's not that. He's just like the most solid ass friend on the planet.
Yeah.
There is no conflict.
No.
He's just when he talks to him on the phone, he's like, I'm going to Florida. Just quits his job, shows up, and he's like, great, you're hired. It pays nothing. He's like, that's what I'm talking about. And they start making the sandwiches, and you're just like, that's a rare thing. Like normally you don't
see that in movies.
Yeah, you never get that sort of, I don't know, I go all the way back to like Mercutio from like Romeo and Juliet, where it's like there's a character who's just the best friend because everybody wants a best friend.
He was in Baz Luhrmann's Romeo and Juliet.
I did that on purpose.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, it's like I think it's important to just have like somebody there that's like stable, that still believes in our main character and is along for this ride.
I will say this movie has made me order a Cubano anytime I see it on the menu now. I know you don't eat meat, but
what are they
holy
all
shit,
about? What's it
it's
like?
Delicious. It's like this marinated pork with pickles and mustard and just a beautiful sandwich. But oh man,
really
it's
good.
it's just so amazing. And I really had a ton of exposure to them over the years. In this movie, I was like, yes, I want to eat that.
I love when they go to Texas and it's like a drug deal.
That's
Where
right.
he's like, how many you got? And he like opens it and he's like, I got 6. And they're like, well, let's see what it's
How many
like.
can I have? He was like, well, I guess 6.
I guess 6. And they're cutting that little slice off and they're like, Yeah, it's pure. And then Leguizamo's like, he's like, I want one more. And he goes, don't get high off your own supply, man.
That's right. That's true. That's money going in your mouth. Yeah, it's like a barbecue guy. That's another famous chef. I forgot his name. And I just love there's so many aspects to this movie. It's such a smart movie. So well written. He's such a good writer. Another underrated thing on top of the acting and directing.
Yeah,
stuff.
I know, right?
But just having someone feel vulnerable, like Mikey in Swingers. I think I called him Bobby earlier, but it's Mikey in Swingers.
That's what it is.
But he's a vulnerable person, and that's okay. There's no macho shit happening here, right?
Yeah.
Like, and a lot of times when there's a movie with a chef or just like a guy in general, you have to have some modicum of that, and there's none of that here. It's just really about somebody finding themselves, and his son going to New Orleans and getting a beignet for the first time. Like, that's such a cool experience, and they have the clean up, getting better montage of,
cleaning up the truck. Yeah, totally.
He's got to scrape out that nasty shit that's been sitting in the fridge for God knows how long in the Florida heat.
Well, and they go on this road trip, and they're making the sandwiches, and his son says something about, like, well, I'm not, like, who cares that it's burned? I'm not going to eat it. He's like, get off the truck.
Yeah.
Right. And he has this conversation with him that again goes back to this thing of like how much, when you are someone who makes art, like how much that is intrinsically tied to
perfection.
not even that, and not even just your personality, but it's like your identity, like how you see yourself, like in the world, right? Like how you see your space in the world. And he's like, look, I'm a bad father and I was a shitty husband, but I'm really good at this. He's like, and I think that you can be really good at this too, but that means we don't fake it and we don't half-ass it, because like that's the last thing you have left, right?
Yeah.
This is it. This
brings
all you
me
get.
joy.
Yeah. And I'm good at it, right? And it's like you see that little boy, that actor just,
Yeah.
yes, chef. Like the way it's so cool, like that interaction that they have together where you go, yeah, there are some tear-jerky moments that happen later, but to me, that's the most poignant one actually, is between the two of them there, that idea of like,
Yeah.
just, I don't know. It's very powerful.
Last thing I'll say about how, we talked earlier about how this may be a little dated with the technology, but the part that they called out and got right was he was making fun of his son for Vine, which is 8-second videos.
Yeah.
And that he's like, what? That's nothing. I do a 1-second video. He's like, these kids today, oh my God, right? And they're like joking around about it. And now you look at TikTok and how
like,
huge all of the short form content is now. And, some of it's longer than 8 seconds and everything, but it's just funny how it predicted that to be right. It's just like, oh.
Totally. Last thing I'll say, and it's more of a observation that I want your feedback on. I had forgotten about this part, and rewatching it made me realize why I had forgotten about it. I think this movie is so good, and in a lot of ways, like for what it is, it's a very perfect movie.
It is.
But I felt like the last scene is a total cop-out. Like, it's so weird to me that Oliver Platt, like in my head, Oliver Platt shows up, makes this Faustian bargain. He tells him to go fuck himself and stays in the truck. Like, he doesn't give up. He doesn't do what he does here, which is he takes Platt's money. Our last scene is both an introduction to the new restaurant as well as
their wedding.
They got remarried.
Yeah.
And I'm like, none of those things felt earned to me. They just felt like, well, we ran out of time or ran out of ideas. So like, there's your ending. Like, there's a couple of little cute moments between him and Sophia where I'm like, oh, maybe there's a little bit of tension there.
They tease it.
But not...
And her supportive.
But not enough for how realistic the entire movie before it is.
Yeah.
It just feels like a super unearned, weird, like... Well, we have 30 more seconds.
Guys.
Yeah, it's like kind of. And I'm like, you could have wrapped it up with him telling Oliver Platt, like, go to hell. and
Yeah.
he keeps doing the truck. Like it flew in the face of all of the artistic integrity that the rest of the movie's about. I didn't buy it, and it's a bummer because it's literally 45 seconds at the end of an otherwise
dialogue,
fantastic movie.
Yeah. I wouldn't say it ruined the movie for me.
Me either.
I wouldn't say it's a complete cop out because there is some stuff there. In reality, he probably would be like, "Oh, you're offering me money to keep doing this." And I think honestly, Oliver Platt does a good job explaining kind of his side.
I thought we were just fucking with each other. Yeah,
his side of the story,
he
and
does.
just like understanding like what he loves and you know, he's part of the reason that he was big in the first place.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think there's some history there with that, and he kind of helped make him big. So he feels like the reason he called him out in the beginning is because it's like your son betraying you or something for some reason, you know? So I wouldn't say it's completely unearned, but it always has kind of irked me a little bit. Like they just like, oh, here's a little bow.
It's
I bought
super
it for 30
rushed.
cents. I bought it for 30 cents at Walmart.
Yep.
It's on the top of your package.
Yeah, it's on the top of your
Gift.
incredible gift. Yeah, totally. And if they had leaned more into the rekindling of his relationship, if they had leaned in a little bit more to, rather than there being the scream at him exchange and then them talking in front of the food truck, if there had been a little more dynamic there, then maybe I'd believe it.
Yeah,
but
I agree. Like it would make more sense to have it be 10 years later and it's Jasper running the truck or something, you know,
Right?
and he's like, he's a chef now or something.
But literally,
like that,
they did the same thing where it's like there's a moment where he accidentally tells his ex-wife that he loves her, and she accidentally says it back.
Right, yeah.
And then cut to like 2 scenes later, she's working on the truck, and I'm like, when the fuck did that happen? Like, where's the cute scene where he asks her to work on the truck? Like, she's just there wearing one of the company shirts, and I was like, you know, you could have had that scene.
Yeah, I mean, they jumped like 6 months ahead or something like that.
It just seemed, it was just weird. Like there's so much attention to detail in the other 90% of the movie that I'm like, I don't know.
I can definitely see what you're saying.
Yeah, it was a bummer.
But still a great movie.
Yeah.
I would recommend it to pretty much anyone. 45 seconds is not going to
No.
ruin
And
it
if you
for me,
know
so.
now, then like, but yeah, it is a good
I'm
movie.
just really
It's a
happy
good
that
movie.
movies like this get made still. And I guess it's 9-year-old movie at this point.
So,
But just movies that don't have to be so heavy, right? And they can just be like this experience or like this growing. I don't know. It's a very human movie, I guess.
Yeah.
Even if you're not a chef, I think there's a lot of things that you can relate
yeah.
to, and that really goes to Favreau and his creation and understanding his character's motivations and writing to his strengths. And you know, I mean, you were describing the movie at the beginning. I'm like, that's just like Swingers. Like all the things you're saying is exactly what
It is
Swingers
true.
is.
It totally is.
He's just a grown up. He's so money and he doesn't even know it. All right. Thank you, everyone. Next week, we are going to do that one scene from Scream.
Yes.
And then we're going to continue our food festival with Ratatouille.
Oh my heck. So yeah, if you want to follow along at home, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.